I wanted to show you a band that I've been enjoying called Men I Trust. And I do trust them. They're not all men.
Can we trust men though? Sorry,
that's why
that's the topic of a different podcast.
There's more than just men in this production. There are men, women, and instruments.
It's a band.
It is a band. It is a band.
Okay.
And I think one of the coolest things about this band is that their live performances are really intimate and they're really well recorded. And I think they lend to the style of music that they play. So I wanted to start you off on the right foot. I love the recorded tracks. I love the albums. We'll shill the vinyls later. But I wanted to show you some live performances. And I think that's a great way to start. This song is called Show Me How. And I won't give you any more context, but let's get into it. So that was Show Me How.
I like it a lot.
Has their trust been earned? Has your trust in them been earned?
I think we're making very progressive steps towards a safe space. Very much so. But I actually think that comes through in the music quite a lot. That first, oh gosh, I don't know music terms. Why am I doing a music podcast?
Throw it out there.
Okay.
Throw it out there.
All right, I'm
Don't
just
be
going to
scared.
describe things. I don't know what they're called. That first like guitar sequence when it first opened was just so strong, and I think it immediately took me to a place. The place was very reflective. It was very like golden auburn colors, and looking back on something that was both like nostalgic and very contemplative, and that was all just in like, what was it, like dun, dun, like 3 notes, which was pretty cool. I think, and as I was listening, the amount of like reverb and like echo that they were putting on, because I don't think anything was being doubled. I think that was all just running through tech things. That
You would have heard some chorus in the guitar. So you would have, it wouldn't have necessarily been doubled, like the track wouldn't have been doubled, but the signal is modulated, so it's doubled in a way that sounds like a chorus, but it avoids like a layer of like thickness that you'd get with double tracking guitars. I think your point about the simplicity yet the emotion in the melody is super obvious in the song. It's a really simple melody. It's not hard to play, but it hits on all the right notes and it gives you just enough so that you hear that guitar right at the start and then you flow right into the vocal, and the vocal picks up from where the guitar leaves off.
Yes.
I think that's a really great part of this song, and it's why it's a simple song. It's a chill song, but it kind of moves forward in a way that a more complex or dynamic song might. Something that I picked up on as well is, you mentioned there's a lot of reverb. If you look at what gear these guys use, lots of reverb in there, but the vocal is stripped back in a way that it respects the reverb in the instruments, but it complements it without needing to be washed in another reverb.
I would describe the way that the reverb was making me feel was, it's a bit like, you know, if you're it's like a really hot day or something like that, and then things in afar, because of the hot air that's coming off like the road, there's just a slight shimmer to it, and it's not like foggy, it's not very conspicuous, it's like slightly just like shimmering, you know, and in the distance. And that was the kind of feeling, like I actually didn't notice the reverb at first, and then only as once I'd settled into the song and I was listening to it, I think it was around the second verse, I was like, what are they doing to the guitar? It's only one guitar. What are they doing to it? And that was, I'm like, oh, there's actually this little bit of like quivering to the sound. that you're right. It wasn't as thick as if it was a double track or anything like that. And I'm like, oh, that just gave me, I think, even more. That just created that texture of the place that they were trying to take us to. I noticed was a little bit on, I think, on the vocals as well, which really put the vocals into the same universe space acoustically as the instruments. But without, what I found very interesting was, I think a lot of, especially in, I don't know if this is a generalization with like pop songs, the vocals is the star feature, and then everything is like, it's an instrumentation, otherwise it's just a cappella, right? Whereas here, I actually felt like the volume of the vocals was almost like equal and then a slight notch below the instrumentation, which made it almost like the vocals was another instrument and they were just melding together on an equal playing field.
And I wanted to pick up on this as well. I really love the way that the bass comes in, not just to fill that low end, but to drive the song forward. Like the bass carries kind of a mirrored melody to the lead guitar. You kind of notice it throughout the song as it plays through. And it recalls the kind of passage that's played by the guitar, but then moves the song forward with a steady tempo. And it does that while respecting the vocal range of the singer. And I think they all just come together in a very like cooperative kind of in service of the end product kind of thing, rather than just spotlighting the singer.
Why different parts could stand out, say like the vocals compared to the lead guitar versus the bass guitar, was that they were in different like note ranges. You know, obviously it's a higher voice, and the voice is occupying like this octave, and then the lead guitar was very much like in like, imagine like a piano, like the middle of the piano, and of course the bass is down there. And because they were just in different note ranges, that's what gave you that separation without things needing to be significantly louder or softer than each other.
I think you're spot on. I think I'm not going to speak for the rest of the tracks. We'll get into them in a second. But I very much respect that from Men I Trust. And that's why I trust them. I trust these men. I trust these men and women and instruments and recording and all of it. I just wanted to really quickly call out the drums here. Quite subtle and subdued, but you get this really kind of like blanket over drum, kind of jazz drum style. And it's, again, getting a bit behind the curtain. It's not in the recorded song on the track on the album version, but there are some really awesome, like almost send a shiver down your spine drum roll sequences in this, like as fills. You'll get like a like really quickly, and then it just backs off. And I just really love the way it complements the rest of the instruments. It's like a call and response where each instrument comes in, says their piece, and then makes space for the next one. And I just really love the drums in this track as well. So far so good. I wanted to mix it up with a couple of different tempos in these songs. So this live performance was from quite a few years ago. I think it was 4 years ago. There's a couple in here that are from a much more recent session. Getting on to track 2, this one's called Billie, Toppy. This one is from a couple months ago. So we won't date ourselves. We are recording this at some point in time. This one is much more recent than the other one.
Cool.
So if there's a Men I Trust song you listen to at the gym, that's probably it. Bit of a change of pace, right?
Is that very different to their general vibe?
I wouldn't say it's very different, but you've just witnessed what I would call a different mode of Men I Trust.
Uh-huh.
So obviously driving beat, faster tempo, still in the realm of some of the things that we've heard before in terms of the drums are quite muted, quite dampened, yet still very percussive, very forward driving. But I think we're hearing a few different things with this song. We're hearing something new from the guitarist. We're hearing a riff that kind of joins in with the drums and the bass and then backs off and then gets a little bit cloudy and dreamy and shimmery for the chorus. And for me, what sticks out in that one is the partners in crime, the drum and bass, they're driving forward the tempo. The guitars joining in and pulling back. And then the others are adding that layer of kind of dreaminess. That's my POV.
Okay. My brain locked onto something completely different.
Go ahead.
And it was, I'm sure, it was doing my head in from the very beginning. Roll the tapes, you'll see it, I'm sure, because I could feel it.
And I do enjoy the way he talks me now. Bully be dragging me around.
A lot of, I think, look, this being the second Men I Trust song that I've heard, similarities to the first track, a lot of that call and response between vocal and instrumentation, specifically in this song as well, the lead guitar. I also noticed, I think having that sort of like that dreamy, reverberant kind of effect there, which I think they do so well. Also very, very present. The movement that I had here, though, I was like, oh, my brain was like, what is that? I don't think it's from instruments. I think it's from the it's not arrangement because this is their original, the composition. So there's a lot of things in music where either the music is leading the listener towards something, and our brains intuitively expect a certain resolution, and that it relieves any sort of tension or sort of like, where are we going? We're traveling, now we've arrived, and then everything's resolved and we're happy. This, why it was doing my brain in, I realized, and how it gave that forward momentum was through timing. And Men I Trust were very, very clever with the timing. So I think this is in like, it felt like a 4/4 vibe, like I was kind of like 4 beats in a bar. Normally, the downbeat, which I think would be like 2 and 4 in a 4-beat bar, is where you have your emphasis. It's like there's something boom, right? Or if it's like 4/4, it will be 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. They were doing things, changing keys, moving into another phrasing moment on upbeats. You're skipping, and as you think you're about to like land downwards onto the road, actually you're in an up movement. And so for example, and it was very quick, and they were lining them up very, very quickly. So it almost feels like, as a listener, I was expecting this, but they were moving on. And it's almost like I couldn't feel, didn't know where my footing was. It was like loose gravel.
I have an idea that I think tracks onto what you're catching on to. I'm viewing this song as a Mario Kart level. All right? Stick with me.
Yeah, go on.
It is Nintendo season. Dating the podcast Switch to just announced. Mario Kart World.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored. Nintendo, please. But what I was thinking of was the driving beat, the start of the song, that is, you're on the track. You're going forward. You're picking up the items. You're getting there.
Yes.
That refrain. Do I call it a refrain? The thing that you mentioned, where we're pulling back, the vocals are saying a phrase, and then we're jumping back in. That's a jump. You're jumping. You're midair. Yes. You're about to hit the ground again. You hit the ground. You drive forward again. Where it gets dreamy. I don't know if you've played the Mario Karts that have this is between me and the audience, but you can listen in. During the chorus, we are off the ground. We're in the air. We're not expecting to land though. We're flying. We're in the clouds. We're moving forward, but we're dreamy. We're soaring. We're sightseeing, and eventually we hit the part where we enter the ground again. But it's not a brief jump. It's a whole new kind of section. We're still moving forward. It's still the same song, still the same track.
Yeah.
But we're in the air.
Yeah.
And then we come back down.
I think that's switching gears, if we're going to stick with a Mario Kart driving motif. Formula One, please sponsor us. That's what creates that contrast, and that change of gear is what creates the tension emotionally in this piece, right? So when it opened, that guitar line, and I was thinking about this guitar line also in the bridge that comes later and then towards the end. It's really setting the rules of this musical universe. We're in 4/4. The drums are playing in line as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The verses are classic "Men I Trust." The
bass this time,
pulls.
the bass isn't tracking to the melody. The bass is tracking to the tempo as well. So one change here, and I mentioned it before. So Partners in Crime, the bass is right there with the drums, and they're pushing everything forward. But yeah, absolutely.
Verse. No tricky timing stuff going on. Instrumentation pulls back in that mid space because then the vocals occupy that acoustic space. And then, going into the chorus is, where they did that, almost like that slip jump upbeat just once. And then I think, was it at the end of the chorus, and they did it 3 times in a row, and that's the loose gravel moment.
Yeah, there's a bit of an expectation to return to verse, and they kind of just play with your
Keeping you on your
emotions for a
toes.
second. Yeah, they're playing with your trust. These men,
but so trust is not built when you're falling. Trust is when they catch you each and every time.
And they did catch us.
They did catch us every time. What I thought was then really wonderful was, so a lot of the song had this kind of like, if I had to describe it as like color and light, like I was like browns, and they had like a grit to it, and it was very grounded, right? I think that the main guitar, the drums, the bass, the tone of what they were playing was very grounding. It was very like, we're here. Even with the vocals being sort of like having that dreamy effect, I still think we were very much on earth. Then the bridge came, and the bridge, all of a sudden, I felt that the way that they were playing the instruments had a very lighter feeling to it. We were no longer grounded.
return of the chorus effect as well in the guitar. Yep.
And then the last thought that I heard was then after the bridge, we come back to a chorus. No slippy. After the bridge, I did not, maybe I'm wrong, but I did not notice any slippy timing moments. And it was like, I've now come back to earth. It's solid ground. We've gone through this whole journey, and it sort of, and it brought me to a very fulfilled end place by the time the song finished.
Are we ready for the next one?
Yes.
Okay. I have some thoughts about this song. I won't voice them now. I have some thoughts about it. So this one, again, from the 2025 recording, very recent, not a new song. If avid players of the game Pokemon, I think you might have heard of it, Nintendo game.
Pikachu.
Exactly. There's a move in that game that you learn very early on, and it's called Tailwhip.
Ah.
And that happens to be the name of this song.
Okay.
You ready?
Now, wait, which Pokemon? No, don't tell me. I'll focus on the song. I'm like, which Pokemon?
All right,
is
Tailwhip. Here we go. So that was Tailwhip. Just a quick note. So we'll get into this, but there's a part in this performance that's different to the recorded track, and it's not a matter of preference, but I think there's an element in the recorded track that I identify with more in terms of just what I enjoy in music. All right, let's jump into the recorded track. We don't have to go through the whole thing. We'll go through a chorus and then we'll see.
In this home I know we'll be alright. Say here's some time. It's gone.
Yeah, it's that. I live for that. That is the pause and the and then he gets into the chorus.
Oh, I was listening to something different, I think. For me, that was a bit like a...
Oh. It's the cymbal, and then we get into the...
It's almost like a step or change.
Yeah.
Which I can't dance, but I do know that term.
Oh, I can't dance either. I'm not about to dance now.
Do you know what I paid attention to that was not in the live version, is on this album version, is that run up into your little kickboard change.
It's mine now.
Was I don't know how you produce that sound, but it's almost like a rushing S and that effect, which I really liked in the album version, which obviously like
you'd have to produce that in. It'd be a hard one to.
I think
do
it'd be one of
live.
those. There was a few other things that I noticed listening to. Now I really want to go listen to the album versions of everything to come.
Hey, Men I Trust. There's a new album out for another time. Yeah. I think just the feeling that it gives me. So putting the technicalities aside, it makes me want to move. It encourages movement.
I was just sitting there, I'm like, this would make a really cool, like a disco like if they
chuck a few more synths
if they
on
ever
it.
did like a remix compilations album or something like that.
Someone's done
I
it
think
for
this
sure.
would translate. I would love to disco boogie to this.
Let's synthwave it up. Let's add some 80s cheesy synths. Drum machine instead of the drums.
I think synths would pair well into an alternate arrangement of this.
I mean, we've got a lot of producers out there. Anyone who's watching, give it a crack. We've got one more song left. This one's called
Among Shrubs.
Tree Among Shrubs. This one is also from...
Is the case.
That is the case. I think there's like something about foliage and tree cover that encourages the growth in shrubs to happen a certain way. I don't know. All right, let's get into Tree Among the Shrubs. Last track,
Shrubs.
Tree Among Shrubs. How are we feeling on Men I Trust so far? 3 songs in. 3 for 3?
3 for 3.
3 for 3?
3 for 3.
All
Tree
right.
for tree.
Tree for tree.
Tree for shrubs.
Let's do it. I love that we end on a bit of call and response. It doesn't really seem like call and response, but between the bass and the guitar gets to the higher registers of the melody, and then the bass repeats it while the guitar returns to the lower parts of the arpeggio. And I love that we end on that, because that's what I've picked up on through the song.
I was thinking a lot more about how they create this sense of like reflection.
Would you almost call it trust?
No.
Okay, never mind. No, go ahead.
No, this sense of like looking back and so forth, right? In this dreamlike state, nostalgia, etc. We've talked about the reverb, which I think they get the balance of that yet again really, really well on this track. What I also started to notice is there's a lot of like modulation going on
Lots of tremolo on the guitar as well. I don't know if it was the physical tremolo arm or if it was an effect, but the...
Is that like when you have it's the metal rod thing that sticks out of guitars?
I would direct your attention to my red
I
Guild
see.
Starfire. It's usually
Not
attached
sponsored,
to the... Not
but
sponsored.
could be.
I think Guild's kind of going out of business though. Anyway, it's usually attached to the bridge, and it's a way to get a physical kind of string modulation. But you can also do it through a pedal.
Cool. Yes. I think the modulation, the tremolo, also adds into that texture. I think whether is it call and response of the guitar and then the bass repeating it? Is it like a reprise? It's almost like a mirror. It's an echo. Because and just like a lot of echoes, they fade in intensity because of physics and the way that sound waves work and things stretching and losing energy. The pitch also tends to modulate down. So I think by using the main guitar to play a riff, and then it being echoed by the bass, there's a time delay, there's a downwards pitch change, which is all the same principles of an echo. An echo is so much conceptually tied with obviously looking into the past and things that are sort of like not of the present, let alone the future. I was also thinking this can probably be answered by researching, or someone who's
Which we won't do,
or
for
someone
sure.
who's just a lot more knowledgeable about film and cinematography and the history of cultured things and so forth. But perhaps I'm just like, why does a modulated sound, why do these, I also notice a lot of their chord progressions have a lot of these steps that, again, if I knew music theory stuff, like going into like a half tone type thing, which creates all of this beautiful texture, but also tension, and it's not a natural, major chord or whatever.
It moves down the scale in a very short, it doesn't take big steps in the chord progression. It's very kind of gradual.
Yeah. So between the modulation, the reverb, why do these sound effects make us feel of this dreamlike state? Why do we associate this with flashbacks and looking into the past and so forth? One thing that occurred to me was in the olden days, right, when we had physical media, you had...
So like 2008?
No, older than that, because I'm about to talk about like VHSs, cassette tapes, vinyl records, where if your physical medium warped with age and so forth, that would distort both the vision but also the audio, and it would have that sound modulation happening. To me, growing living in a world in a time when I experienced those things, is that why I associate that with this reflective time travel dreamy like state? And I wonder whether people who are of a younger generation, who were like in the era of like DVDs and MP3s, where you don't get modulation with age, is that still associated? Is that something 100%. That is maybe created as a concept in their mind, not from the original source of physical mediums degrading over time, but because that's been used so much as a device and as a technique in music writing, in movies and so forth, that they acquired that association?
Well, the Y2K aesthetic is massive with the Zoomers now. And it's bands like Men I Trust, like Always, like others that are really leaning in from a very sincere place. Like these folks are old enough to have lived through it. But I think the Zoomers, for lack of a better term,
Gen Z,
the Gen Zers, the Zeds, they're being exposed to stuff like this and they're glomming onto it from a different perspective. But I think the vibe, the emotion that it evokes is eternal. It's just coming at it from different points of view. But no, I totally get that as well. Like I get the callback to physical media, to analog synths, to putting the cassette in the player, having it be a little bit shit because it's just warped. It's been in the sun for too long.
Or not even that. Like say it's when you put it in, and because it's all mechanical, so the device, you know, the tape player, the vinyl player, as the literally the mechanisms are like getting up to speed, you get that right, which I don't know whether actually, now that I'm thinking about you know, those older computer start sounds, like of a Mac, etc., and they had a bit of that warp as like, I'm like, well, obviously it's a computer, so they designed that into the sound. And they did that on purpose because we associate that with like something revving into life and then coming into an operation.
I guess that then begs the question, is it the memories of the old tech that give us that emotion, or is it the fact that we needed to slow down and take a second to wait for things to kick into gear, smell the flowers, be patient, reflect? We're asking the real questions here. So my point of view here is, Men I Trust are definitely leaning into that Y2K kind of, not super old, but like our childhood kind of years.
Reminiscent.
Reminiscent for sure. But I think what else, the other thing that they're doing that complements that is the way that they've arranged their instrumental kind of landscape is it's not busy, but it's capturing the full spectrum. So it's letting you kind of sit there and process each area, each instrument's kind of focal point evenly at your own pace. And I think that, coupled with the warbliness of some of the instruments, the modulation, all of that, I think that really evokes that emotion in a very kind of powerful way. And I think many artists will lean into like the tape echo kind of sound and all of that, but they won't pull off that second bit. They won't let you sit there and reminisce. They'll just add the elements into their music. And that's kind of a bit cheap. But I think what's happening here is they're using that technology and those techniques to complement really kind of strong songwriting. That's my point of view. And if you haven't kind of realized by now, I'm a huge fan of Men I Trust. I trust these men with my life, all right? And I think, is it safe to say that we've built a bit of trust here through these 4 songs with these men?
I think very much so. I think
for a newbie, for a new listener.
Yeah. I think the laid back energy, I think the types of chords that they like to, chord progressions that they like to do, the timbre of like the vocals, of the arrangement and so forth. It's very easy for someone with very little knowledge of the band, someone who maybe probably doesn't introspect on music as much as maybe the two of us, to just experience and enjoy, just listen and be like, that was a cool track. I enjoyed that. But I think like a lot of really well done pieces, and not just in music, you know, when I think about great films as well, where it had very broad mass appeal, but had such richness in the way that it was written and then constructed and produced and put together. It's just really wonderful. And if you want to really think about it, and if you want to go back and listen to it for the umpteenth time and dissect it and zoom in onto little parts of it, you can, and they will find interesting things.
So we've just heard Men I Trust, and we're feeling introspective and chilled out.
Very much so.
All right. That's it.